Okay. Friendly reminder, tomorrow is our last day of the week. You have 21 through 30. If you're interested in coming to tutoring in the morning, I do it every morning at 8, every Wednesday, not every morning. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. If you want to come, you're more than welcome to. We do have extra credit due by Thursday of this week. Please feel free to bring it in. You have till the 8th to go see They Shall Not Grow Old if you are interested in seeing it. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what is the name of what is it called when the Germans sent their entire military force to France because they thought they could beat France with their entire military before the Russians showed up? Good. William.
Schifflin Plan.
Okay, on your whiteboard, please tell me, what's the outcome of the Schifflin Plan? It causes what to occur? Good. It causes what, Evan? Trench warfare. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what are my 2 teams of World War I? And tell me who's on each team. Can we just stop for a second and appreciate how beautiful my tulips are? Aren't they gorgeous? White tulips are my favorite. No. You gotta tell me who's on the teams. No, you're missing a bunch. Good, Josh.
There's the Allied and the Central Powers. The Allied powers, there's the U.S., England, France, Russia, and Italy. And the Central Powers, there's the Ottoman Empire, Germany, Austria, Hungary.
There you go. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what is, give me a new piece of technology for World War I, please. You can't just throw that up, William. You gotta have like a context. What is it? What do we got? Nick.
Airplanes.
Airplanes.
Reconnaissance.
Alright, yeah, the reconnaissance, they're not bombing each other, so make sure you do know that. Colton.
Mustard gas.
Mustard gas. What? Yeah. So we got machine guns, your Maxim gun, now you have straight up machine guns. All of those are going to be happening. All right, who can raise their hand and tell me where we left off?
Thanks. Mustard gas.
William, thank you very much for raising your hand, which was part of the instructions. William, thank you.
Technology, tanks.
All right, so tanks. Now, when we think about tanks today, I mean, they apparently we have tanks. So one of our friends, one of McCrae's friends, my husband, he was in Afghanistan the day he was obviously in the army. He was on top of a tank and rolled into Afghanistan when the United States invaded in Afghanistan. Which, if you were too young for it, it was in like
2003.
yeah, no, I think it was a little later. I think it was like 94, 90. No, because it was after this is after Osama, Bin Laden hit our towers. This is like 05, 07. What happened is that we had about 150 tanks in a straight line going 80 to 90 miles an hour through the desert. That is how we took the border of Afghanistan. And we had, obviously, our planes, our jets and stuff above, blowing up any obstacles they were seeing before the tanks could get there. And he says that it's still one thing that he will never be able to forget. Just this, he sat on top of a tank going 80 miles an hour. He had to strap himself in. But a bunch of the guys just sat on top of the tanks, and that's how they entered Afghanistan. And he was like, it was the most surreal, it was the craziest thing we've ever experienced. Now, the tanks that I'm describing, that situation, 80, 90 miles an hour through the desert, is that what we're talking about in this? No. These are like they're not even probably as good as the tanks you had if you had a little kid and you had a little tank playing with. They're not that great, but they do exist. All right. The big thing you need to know: the tanks are just used. Tanks are there. Airplanes are just checking the overviews. That's all they're doing. They're not shooting. At the end of the war, they start dropping things out the window. Like they have a bucket of like bombs in their feet, and then they like put them out the window. It's not any of like the dogfights where the planes are like zooming in and out, shooting. Yes, any of that. It's not happening until 2. On submarines. So the 2 deadliest battles of World War I. There's 2 of them. You just need to know their names. You need to know that Verdun is the first one. Happens in 1916, and you have 500,000 people are going to die in about 2 days. Now keep in mind, the deadliest day in war at that point was Gettysburg in the United States Civil War. Gettysburg, in 3 days, they killed 25,000 people. This is the deadliest day up until D-Day, and they killed 500,000 people. Is that a pretty big jump in numbers? Yes. Somme is going to be in 1917. It's in France, if you care. This is going to be the first real battle the Americans show up at. With that being said, most Americans who die in World War I are going to die at the Battle of Somme. Okay, they have about 420,000 casualties. I think about 100,000 of them are going to be Americans. Why are Americans going to make up that big of it? Come on, it's in 1917. Why are Americans going to make up that much of this big battle? Why, Payne?
Because wait, no, I don't know.
Guys, when we show up in 1917, how is the Central Powers looking? Strong or weak?
Weak.
Weak. So, how are the Allied powers looking? Strong or weak? Well, with us, they're strong. However, without us, they're incredibly weak, correct? So, when the first battle comes out, who goes straight to the front of the lines? The Americans. We're just excited to be involved. Yeah, we get to go shoot people. You people have been doing this for 3 years. Push aside, let the Americans through. We're going to go kill some people. That was pretty much the intention in World War I, and that's why the Battle of Somme. Here at Plant, we have kids who went from Plant High School to World War I. There's a plaque in the front of the school. There's some that enlisted, and there's some that died. If I had to bet, I know Plant School opened up later, but they have a plaque for it, so I don't understand why we have a plaque for it, but we have plaques. Some of them are recent graduates or soon to be, I don't know, some shit. But if they died, they'd probably died in the Battle of Somme. If they died in battle, it's probably that. Annie.
So,
Total war is your next heading.
where is Syria?
Serbia is north of Greece. On that peninsula.
So, Serbia is one of the Allied powers.
What's Greece?
Greece is kind of a mess. Greece is always a mess. It's always been a mess. They're just getting on. Their peak was in period 2 friends. There we go. Total war is when a country focuses its government, economy, and civilians. Total war is when a country focuses its government, economy, and civilians towards winning a war. Next thing, right? Every aspect is touched. So, total war means every aspect in civilization is being touched. For instance, if we were in a total war here in 2019, our day of school would be a half day of school. Okay? All the young men in this room are too young to serve. What, you're 15, 16? 15, 16, oh, 16. About 16 after that. Okay? So, you're 15, 16, you're too young to serve. Now, your parents could sign you in if they wanted to, if you really convinced them, or if they were like, screw it, send me in. Okay? But most of you are not going to go until you're 18. So a half day of school, you come for school in the morning, and then all the men in this room would go to essentially like an army camp kind of thing. You would do all of your marching, you would learn your orders, you would learn how to shoot a gun until you hit the age of 18. All the women in the room would report to hospitals, would report to hospital care facilities, which is when you're sitting there rolling your bandages, you're taking care of other things, or you're going to a job. And that job is going to be a war necessity job, which means you're going to go help polish bombs. No, but if you're going to bomb factories, you're going to build all that stuff. And that's how that goes. Every single life is touched. You cannot escape it. That's a total war situation. Now, we are currently in 52 countries around the world in war situations, which means if the United States is shot upon, we will shoot back. We're in 52 countries right now. Are we in a total war situation? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? Only in total war have we ever experienced in World War I and World War II. Okay? Now, you do need to write down and put a star. Government takes command of economies. Now, what that means is the government is going to take over factories. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Rod's dad owns a lawnmower factory. And they produce lawnmowers. Really nice ones, right, Rod?
Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, if we declare World War III today, the U.S. government is going to take over Rod's dad's factory. So instead of building lawnmowers, he's now going to start building some sort of either ammunition or some sort of vehicle to transport high need content, whether it's weapons or it's going to be people. Okay? Now your girl Autumn over here, her parents own a very, very lovely clothing factory, right, Autumn?
Yeah.
Only the best clothes. So the U.S. government is going to take over her factory, and they are going to convert it, instead of making beautiful clothes, it's going to be making uniforms, parachutes, whatever the Army needs. That's what we mean by government takes command over economies. Okay. Now, obviously, Rod and Autumn's parents do not own factories. Now, I will tell you that Intel chief spoke to Congress about maybe like 3 weeks ago at this point, and there was a couple things the Intel chiefs, those are on top of all the branches, they are the ones who know all the information. They have a couple concerns about if World War III gets declared. First of all, our population is obese. So, are we ready to fight? No, we're not ready to fight. The funny thing is, in World War I, we were underweight. We're underweight in World War I, so they had to fatten us up to go. Over here, now we're overweight, and the U.S. Army's like, we don't know if we can get these people in shape in a fast enough timeline. The other thing that they're concerned about is if World War III gets declared, we're no longer a manufacturing country, we're now a services country. So the reason why we won both World War I and World War II is because we outproduced everyone else. We just had more stuff. And we're awesome. Don't forget that. We are awesome. However, we outproduced everyone else. But if we go into World War III, where are we going to produce all of the weapons, the bombs, all of the clothing, all the necessary materials? We don't build anything anymore. So that's a huge concern that our Intel chiefs had. And they aired that out a couple weeks ago, which was really interesting. Devin?
What?
You have a question? Okay.
What about like international companies? Like my dad works for a company that's based all around the globe.
It depends if it's in the United States, it can be occupied. It falls under, like for instance, there's a company one of my husband's best friend works on. He's an oil company. The U.S. government write his company a check for $12 million a year for nothing. However, if the United States gets attacked and we go to war, those $12 million checks that are literally for nothing is that the United States is going to commandeer all of those oil ships and use them for government service. Does that make sense? So they're paying for it now, so when the war comes. So this is something that the United States is always planning for. You need to put a star. Women are in the workforce. Why are women welcomed in the workforce for really, truly the first time, Kaiser? There's no men to be, right? All the men have gone off to war, so the women are feeling their responsibilities at home. Okay? Now, we keep talking about a draft. Ladies, just so you know, in the state of Texas, a court on Friday said it was unconstitutional for women to be left out of the draft. Now, this is at a lower court, but it's then going to go to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next, and like 4 or 5 steps, it's going to be in the U.S. Supreme Court if it keeps going. Now, I don't know if you know this, because I'm really quiet about it, but I'm quite the little feminist. Have you heard? Yeah, just really keeping that one a secret. That being said, as a feminist, I want equality in my world. Okay? I believe I have that right to the same respect as a man does, but that means I have to have the same obligations. So, if you want to have equality in life, like I do, that means we have to be equal in all status. So, the idea of going to a draft, all women be included, I support, because I cannot be held equal to a man unless I am willing to do the same as a man. So, that is coming down the line. Now, am I saying it's going to happen in the next year or two? Absolutely not. But that was a very interesting thing. The court in Texas overthrew it, and so now it's going to start being challenged all the way up. So it could be very interesting in your lives. You may have to sign up for a draft, ladies, which would be very interesting. If we want equality, that means on all fronts. Can we agree? Can't pick and choose. So, women in the workforce was a thing. Maybe we'll go to war next time. I hope it's none of us have to go to war, but that could be the next War propaganda is the next component you need to know. Now, war propaganda. Now, I will say, I don't know how useful I'm going to be on a battlefield because I'm terrified of guns. So, I'm just saying, but I will do my service. I'm just saying, I will show up. But not today. I've shot. I held a gun and I was supposed to shoot the gun at gun range, not like a weird situation, and I just cried. I don't think that's what the U.S. wants in their soldier, but I will always show up. Here we go. So you need to know that war propaganda is used by every government to support war causes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the most famous piece of war propaganda the United States used in World War I? So successful they used it in II, and frankly, you've seen this image 10,000 times. Hey, there. Uncle Sam. I would put that down as your example for the United States. It's an important one and a good one for you to throw down as evidence. Okay? So, now you do need to write fronts on your next heading is front. What do you got, Lauren?
Which war was
Rosie, she's 2. Because she's building airplanes. And airplanes are always... Okay. Global involvement, you need to know that there are fronts. The first one is the Western Front. When you talk about World War I, you have to be able to say things like the Western Front, war of attrition, and stalemate. These are terms you have to be able to use. The Western Front is between Germany and France, and what type of war is being fought there? Trench warfare is fought there. So, on your notes, you're writing Western Front. It's between Germany and France, and it's trench warfare. The Eastern Front is your next one. That is between Germany and Russia. It has some trenches, but it's mostly a mobile war. Who can raise their hand and tell me what's a mobile war? Come on, people. Come on, a mobile war. Hello, Bobby, what do you think? Yes, they're moving. It's more like your traditional warfare. Like in World War II, you know how we capture a city, then we lose the city, and then we capture the city again, and then we take more territory and we lose some of it. That's a mobile warfare. That's your traditional warfare. Then you have your colonial impact. Colonists were taken back to Europe to fight their colonial powers. Do you think by force or by choice?
Force.
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I think they were really well paid. Could you imagine being like a poor Indian kid? Like you've never been out of India. They put you on a ship for like 4 weeks. You get off and it's freezing cold in France. You're like, what the hell is this? But that's what's happening because the largest contributor to World War I from the colonial is India. Australia, you better write that down. India, Australia, and Canada were the largest contributors of colonial troops. Now keep in mind, from India, they brought elephants. They went to the Western Front. They didn't go to the, they went to the Eastern Front, not the Western Front, but they were fighting on elephants, which was pretty long. Okay, Russian Revolution, here we go. So, for the Russian Revolution, it's going to start in 1905. Yeah. I'm just running out of board space. 1905. It's Bloody Sunday in 1905. You need to write that. So the Russian Revolution is going to start in 1905. Why? What happens in 1905? I taught you this, people. Come on. What war did Russia lose in 1905, Jake? Russo-Japanese War. The Russians lose. The Russians are pissed. They go to the Winter Palace. So you're going to write that down, people. Miss Bennett. You put on Ramirez? I don't have to put on Ramirez. No problem. So, you have Bloody Sunday in 1905. It's after the Russo-Japanese War. People are not happy with the Russians, so they revolt. Tsar Nicholas II shoots into the crowd. Do you remember this? Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then you have the March Revolution. The March Revolution is Russians hate World War I. Why? Because the Russians are going to World War I with swords and they're going against gunfire. Who do you think is going to win? Gunfire. Okay, with that being said, Russians are starving all across the country. There's no heat. People are starving to death. Their boys are just getting massacred. You would want to rebel too. Can we agree? So the March Revolution is going to force Tsar Nicholas II to be removed from power, and then the Duma is going to take over. Who can raise their hand and tell me what the Duma is? What's the Duma, Nick?
Russian Parliament.
Yes, a Russian parliament. So we went from autocratic ruler, Tsar Nicholas II, to a legislative Duma. How do you think that's going to go? Do you think they were well prepared to take over control? No, so it's going to be a hot day mess. So, after the March Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution is going to occur. The Bolshevik Revolution is with Vladimir Lenin into power. Now, he overthrows the Duma. Now, do you think it was easier to overthrow the Duma or Tsar Nicholas II? The Duma, and that's why. He overthrows the Duma, not Tsar Nicholas II, and creates the USSR, or a communist Russia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, who can raise their hand and tell me if the USSR is really communist? Who can raise their hand? Jake. Why? Oh, it's absolutely authoritarian power. But why? What would have to have occurred for a real communist government to rise? There would be no state.
There would be no state, and everyone would like work for nothing, like everyone would share.
There you go. So, a communist government is supposed to go after hundreds of years of a socialist government. Remember, the socialism is supposed to fade, the government is supposed to fade. Can you overthrow in a bloody revolution and call it communist? No. Okay, but that's what he does. So as soon as Vladimir Lenin takes power, the Bolshevik Revolution, we go straight into the Russian Civil War. Now the Russian Civil War is the Reds, known as the Bolsheviks, who are the extremists, versus the White, who are the Mensheviks, and they are moderate. That's the only reason why I remember Mensheviks and the moderates, because M&M. Mensheviks and moderates. Okay? The Bolsheviks win. It's about a 3-year conflict. They estimate about 100 million people die in this conflict. Isn't that insane? Well, a lot of people are starving, because keep in mind, they were already fighting in World War I for 3 years, so no one's really farming, so people are already starving. And then we have a civil war, which is turning people against people, and it's just a bloodbath. So they estimate about 100 million people die. It's crazy. Isn't that nuts? You don't care? Bolshevik Revolution.
Wait, so
How much more does he go into?
less than you.
Less than me?
No, he gave us some detail.
Like he went into some detail, but I thought there was better than 20.
Oh, jeez. That's like a big part. That's like the two sides. Like north versus the south.
It was just like the impact.
What?
So when exactly in that period of events does Russia jump out of the war?
1917, as soon as Lenin comes to power. This is what he promises. Okay, so you need to write down Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Treaty of Brest-Litovsk is signed by Lenin. So it obviously has to be after the Bolshevik Revolution. It's signed by Lenin. It is between Germany and Russia. Well, USSR at this point. Okay? And the Germans allow the Russians to just leave. Now, who can raise their hand and tell me why the Germans would allow the Russians to just kind of leave and not have to be too involved? Kylie?
Because they wanted their money.
No, okay, so they got Ukraine, but like Ukraine's not that great. Why, Nathan?
Because then they wouldn't have to defend the Eastern Front.
Yeah, they don't have two fronts to fight on anymore. They only have one, so all they have to do is fight with England and France. They don't have to worry about the Russians anymore. Fighting a two-front war is why Germany lost both wars. If Germany only had a one-front war, they would have won all of Europe and would have beaten England, and I don't know if they would have taken U.S., but like it would have been a bloody blowout for sure. Okay, it's Hitler's grandiose plan of taking Russia that literally stops them from conquering the whole world. Okay, two-front wars is a terrible plan. Okay, U.S. enter the war. How much time do I have? Oh, I'm going to do boards then. Here we go. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of who loses power in the March Revolution? Who loses power in the March Revolution? Good. Who is it? Cynthia. Who gains power in the March Revolution? Josh. Duma, what do you got?
Like all the Western countries, so on Nicholas II.
Well, yeah, because everyone saw what happened with the French Revolution when a royal leader goes and causes chaos. They didn't want the next person to be like the next Napoleon. Now, Lenin didn't live to be a Napoleon because he had a stroke.
Stalin.
But Stalin is a horrible human being, and that's what they were trying to do. All right, on your whiteboard, please tell me who rises into power in the Bolshevik Revolution. Who rises into power during the Bolshevik Revolution? Rod?
Vladimir Lenin.
Lenin. On your whiteboard, who loses power during the Bolshevik Revolution? Good. Who is it, Colton? On your whiteboard, what are the two teams of the Civil War? And put a star next to the winners. You have math just thrown in the middle of your notebook.
I ran out of room on that notebook.
Who are the two teams? Josh. And who wins? Bolsheviks. On your whiteboard, what is it called when governments are creating information in order to bolster positive support for the war? Good. What is it? Javi? On your whiteboard, please tell me what is, which front has a mobile and some trenches? Good. What do you got, Autumn? There you go. What's up, Jake?
I have a question. So, for the AP exam, one of the essays are on like the Civil War. Can we say red versus white, so it doesn't have to be the
I would, you could say either, but I would write Ben. Well, you should know both. You have to know the term Bolsheviks. Can we agree? Like, you just have to know that's Lenin's party. They're the victors. Mensheviks, I think it's easy to remember because it's like Bolsheviks, Mensheviks. It's not that hard. And moderate. So I would throw it down because you're definitely going to score the points because it's all that evidence. Let's go. Here we go. U.S. joined the war. Okay, U.S. joined the war. Now, U.S. are going to join the war for two reasons. Now, you're going to put a star. U.S. joined the war. The U.S. said they were neutral, but they weren't. You need to write that down. Now, when you're a neutral country, you're not supposed to be involved at all, or if you do one for one side, you have to do it to support the other. Do you think the United States was helping Germany at all?
No.
No. We are always helping England. We always help England. We have of course, our shared heritage, so we are always helping England. But if you're a neutral country, can you do that? No. So, because of that, the Germans are going to put a blockade on Britain. What does that mean to have a blockade on Britain? What does that mean? Nate?
No goods are going in or out.
But what does it physically mean?
Like, they're going to shoot down anything.
Yeah, there's a bunch of boats that circle England, and any boat that approaches, they're going to shoot down. That's what a blockade is. It's very successful. Napoleon was the first one to use this skill. Now everyone uses it. Okay, so they're going to do a blockade. Any ship that they think is carrying anything. So you need to know the Lusitania. You need to know that name. The Lusitania is a passenger ship that the Germans blew up. But the funny thing is, when they hit it with a torpedo, it didn't just explode, it completely kaboomed. Why did it completely kaboom? And everyone on board absolutely died because the whole ship went into flames and exploded. Why, Kylie? No. What did it have, Josh? It was filled with weapons on a passenger ship. And that ship was traveling from the United States to England. So who was breaking the neutral treaty and got caught red-handed? The United States. So, even though we put the weapons on the bottom of the ship and the Germans were like, we know you're doing this, stop doing that. We're like, no, it's a passenger ship. And then they blew up the ship and then kaboom, kaboom, the whole thing goes. What you're going to see is the United States now has a desire to enter the war. So, the impact of the Lusitania is now the United States has a desire. Because all these people are like, oh my God, they blew up Americans. Whose kind of fault was it? It was our fault. I mean, we were putting guns on the bottom of it. But we wanted to help England. Now, keep in mind, someone was like, I can't believe the United States would do that. And on the other side of it, if they weren't helping England, the United States would have had to go to war earlier. Does that make sense? So, we killed 128 people on the Lusitania. And, like, that's sad. Because there's, like, kids and stuff. So, like, that's sad. But, like, if we had to join the war earlier, would we have more deaths? So, it's kind of like, which one, you know, what would you have rather? The girl was like, I don't like this. Sorry. Okay, so, okay, now, you need to know the Zimmerman telegraph is the final straw. Now, the Zimmerman telegraph is the United States intercepted a telegram, which means we were totally spying. We spy on everyone. Everyone spies on each other. Okay, so we intercepted a telegram from Germany to Mexico. Zimmerman is the German ambassador to Mexico, by the way. So Germany reaches out to Mexico to invade our southern border. They will get Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California if they do. So, this is obviously not good. Why would Germany want Mexico to invade our southern border? What is their real goal, Colton? It's a war on two fronts. Is it easy or hard to win a war on two fronts? It's very hard. So, as soon as we get that heads up that they're thinking, they're trying to strategize to open up a war on two fronts, the United States declares war against Germany. Now, Mexico was reading the telegram the same time we were reading the telegram because we were spying. And they never really responded. They didn't go to it. They didn't move their troops. Now, we did move troops to the southern borders to make sure that nothing was going to happen, but Mexico didn't do anything. What, Peyton? What? Hi. Wait, what?
Okay, so did they did the USA don't do that as soon as they,
Well, yeah, we sent our troops there and we stood there and said, we know. Don't do that. They didn't. They're like, we didn't know. I'm like, it's you. So, alright, so United States enters the war. Now, write the end of the war, please. So there's two reasons for U.S. intervention. Zimmerman telegraph Lusitania. Here's the end of the war. You need to put a big star. Americans win the war for the Allies. Who can tell me why? We already talked about it. We talked about it numerous times. Evan. Well, yeah, so we're stronger, we're healthier, but why, Autumn?
They manufactured that.
Yeah, we had more stuff. We had more food. We had more clothes. We had more guns. We had more weapons. We just had more of everything. It's going to be the same thing around World War II. When we show up, we win because we had more crap. Okay? And that's why. So, the United States, we're also stronger because we haven't been fighting for 3 years. So, on the battlefield, if we're going against a Germany who's been fighting for 3 years, who's going to win? Americans going to win because they're just stronger, fitter to a degree. Okay? So, what's going to happen? The war is going to end on November 11th, 1918. You need to know that date. November 11th, 1918. It used to be known as Armistice Day. The peace of all peace. Why is it kind of funny in history, Nate? Yeah, World War II. So we don't call it Armistice Day anymore. We now call it Veterans Day. Okay, so it's now called Veterans Day. Now, if you remember, a couple months ago, we just had the centennial of World War I, right? Okay, Trump was in Paris on November 11th, 2018. If you remember, he didn't go to the cemetery with all the world leaders. That was a big scandal. He didn't go to the grave sites. They were at the Arc de Triomphe. Yes, do you remember any of that? That was all about it. So all the world leaders got together for that to memorialize that. What do you got?
Why hadn't the Americans been fighting like all along?
Because we thought it was a European problem, not an American problem. And we didn't really want to get too much involved. Yeah. Okay. So just keep in mind, a lot of this reason is because of imperialism, and we kept ourselves out of a lot of the competitive imperialism. I mean, we're obviously imperializing, but so we didn't see our problem. So you need to write the Peace of Paris Conference. Peace of Paris Conference creates the Treaty of Versailles. You need to know that. That's the treaty it creates. The Peace of Paris Conference creates the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles is the treaty that ends World War I. Fun fact, it also causes World War II. Okay? So, now, you need to know that England, France, and the United States run the show. You need to write that down. England, France, and the United States are running the show. The most important person at this is going to be the U.S. President. Who is the U.S. President? Woodrow Wilson. You need to write. Woodrow Wilson came up with the 14 points. Woodrow Wilson created the 14 points. The 14 points plus a little extra equals the Treaty of Versailles. You need to write that down. 14 points plus a little extra equals the Treaty of Versailles. So when we look at what I just told you, the Treaty of Versailles causes World War II. Whose fault World War II broke out, technically? The United States. The United States. Fun fact about the Treaty of Versailles, technically we're still fighting World War I. Congress never signed the Treaty of Versailles. So technically we're still at war. Technically. I don't think President Trump is sitting up late at night being like, oh man, we got to really beat those Central Powers.
World War III, like who would be in that?
China's definitely in it. Russia's definitely in it. U.S., England, France.
Like would it like stem from like what would it start from?
It wouldn't be on land. I don't think it'd be an aerial fight.
But like what would the main like cause?
Sweetie, I have no idea. Did you think a guy named Franz Ferdinand, some rando dude getting shot by another rando dude, was going to start this war? Did you think Hitler's invasion of Poland after he's invaded 15 other countries was really going to be the thing that started World War II?
But you said like the news was saying that like it could happen.
It could happen. Of course, there's always threats.
But there's like a hypothetical, like there's like no like thing that could cause it.
And there's tons of things. If we get another bombing, if Russia invades another country and the whole world says, screw it, let's do this, then, I mean, that could have a huge impact, stuff like that. But no, I mean,